All right, here we go. John Salley, welcome back to VladTV.
Deuces.
What's
up?
Trees are dope.
Trees are dope.
You know?
Everything cannabis this week.
Yep. I'm an avid smoker myself.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we can't smoke in the studio or else we'd be smoking. You know, I remember I just had Sada Baby from Detroit. He was all disappointed.
Really?
He couldn't smoke with me. You know, He was all ready to smoke in the studio with me. And I'm like, no, we can't do it in this studio.
We got to get you a new studio.
We got to get a new studio.
Yeah.
We just put the drum set in the back.
Just
for that.
Just
for that. Well, let's get into it. And first and foremost, talking to someone like yourself, the NBA Finals. Lakers versus the Heat.
Yes.
Now, I went back and looked because you always have predictions about this.
Yeah.
I went back and looked. In July of 2019, over a year ago, you said the 2020 NBA Finals will be the Lakers versus, who did you say? Do you remember?
The Celtics.
No.
Who?
The Raptors.
Raptors?
That's what you said. So who do you predict will go to the finals? The Lakers and who?
In Toronto. And remember, they ran crazy this year. And everybody, they thought that they were going to have a squad, and they were doing well in the bubble, and then they ran into a wall.
Well, to be fair,
yes.
After our interview is when Kawhi Leonard joined the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but I was right about LeBron.
You were right about LeBron.
I said there's no way you could ever. And then when he came, when Kawhi, I think we did another interview, I said, I love the way the Clippers look on paper, but I will never bet against a team that has LeBron on it, ever. I'd literally, he is everything that he's supposed to be. When they started putting up how many times he's been to the finals, 10 times, and then names Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who else was there? One more, Wilt Chamberlain maybe. The fact that you can get to the finals 10 times, and it literally every time you get there, it's been on his back, he got to be the GOAT. It got to be one of the greatest of all time.
Who do you got? Lakers or Miami?
I have Lakers. I will.
Because you're always going to go with LeBron.
I'm always going to go with LeBron. But I'm a fan of Rondo's. Anthony Davis deserves at least 5 championships. Dwight Howard coming back here and seeing what it's like to go from injury and then work your way back into the likeness. He's like playing really big. And that's what I really love, that he's playing big. And all the other guys around are literally doing what's necessary. There's no one is a weak link.
Okay. Do you want to predict the number of games?
There's going to be 6 games.
Okay.
And the Lakers are going to win in 6.
Okay. Like 4-2?
4-2. There might even only be 5 games, but I'm going to go with 6 games since the NBA needs to stay on television.
There you go. You have the official John Salley prediction.
Yep.
Lakers versus the Heat, 4-2.
And LeBron should have been the MVP of the league.
Well, Giannis actually won his 2nd straight MVP.
Right.
And LeBron said it pissed him off. That's his true answer.
And he smiled. But if you're out there working, doing the best you can be, my friend Steve Nudelberg says it's not about being the best. It's about being the best you can be. LeBron was being the best he could be, but the NBA has to look out for itself, and it has to realize that certain people are going to get to a plateau, and then they have to change the views, mentality. They have to change the narrative where they've ridden LeBron's back as far as they can, even to the point where Harden may be leaving Houston. Like they take it as far as they can. They go, this is not working. We got to switch it up. So as a league, like I keep saying, you have to think about the entire league than just the stars that people tend to like.
Well, LeBron has 3 rings.
3 rings.
He's been to the finals 10 times, 8 consecutive times.
Yes.
With whatever team he was at the time. And of course, people are going to bash him for not staying on one team, like a Jordan or a Kobe.
Are they going to bash Wilt Chamberlain for leaving Philly and coming? Are they going to bash the Lakers? Are they going to bash Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from leaving Milwaukee and going to the Lakers?
Yeah.
Are they? Why would they do that? Are they going to bash KG from leaving Minnesota and going to the Celtics? Or Paul? You know, it's. They don't realize that this is the job.
Now, people are going to put an asterisk by LeBron's name because he switched teams so many times, unlike a Kobe or unlike a Jordan.
Well,
Jordan stayed with one team the whole time.
Michael Jordan had 2 teams.
Jordan had 2 teams, but all his championships came up from one team.
From one team.
Yep.
But this is the deal. Jerry West was on one team and has 10 finals or been to the finals 8 times or something like that and lost 8 of the, I think, 8 of the 9 times. People need to realize that this is the league, and the league is in Milwaukee, the league is in Miami, the league is in Denver, and it's like, to me, the IBM. So if you're in the IBM office that's in Los Angeles and they decide you have to go to the IBM office that's in Minnesota, that's what happens. That's it. So you can't, anybody that points and looks for a reason not to like LeBron just doesn't like themselves.
They'll find a reason.
Right. Like Keyshawn Johnson once said, if you don't like Keyshawn Johnson, you don't like yourself. And we all laughed, but we knew what he meant. Like, if you don't know me, if you don't know him and you know that he's out there just doing his job, you cannot not be a fan of LeBron James if you're a basketball fan. It's just,
I agree.
Period. If you're a basketball fan, I don't care. You can hate him playing on the other team, but as a basketball fan, LeBron James is the ultimate.
Let me ask you a question. You played on how many teams again?
5.
5.
Right.
Was it ever your choice to leave a team and get transferred to another specific team, or was it always the management making a decision? Always
management, yeah. And just to let everybody know, when you get the sweatsuit that you wear around, it says property of. Okay? I don't wear that sweatshirt to the day, but it says property of Detroit Pistons, property of, and you know, and they was like, oh, that's a sweatshirt is property of. No, who's wearing it is property of. When I got traded from Detroit to Miami, God rest his soul, Chuck Daly told me a month before I was getting traded that I was going to get traded. And that was right at the draft. And then I didn't get traded until like 2 months later. But he let me know it was coming. The other stuff, I became one of the only free contract free agents, meaning I owned my rights. And I bought my rights back from Isaiah. I bought my masters.
But your masters. Kanye's big on that right now.
Yeah, I bought my masters and I moved to Chicago. And then I played in Chicago, and then it was up to me because I own my rights. And I went and played in Greece for like 6 weeks, came back, did some TV, and then I owned my rights. So I went to the Lakers 3 years later.
Okay. When you talk about players like LeBron, though, or Jordan, or Kawhi Leonard,
yeah,
do they have more of a say or not really?
Not really. It may seem like it, and they may say stuff in the public, or what we need as a team, you know, these guys, me as a leader, they say all that stuff. But I found this out mainly with Shaquille. Shaquille O'Neal got traded.
He left the Lakers.
Yeah.
Right.
He wanted more money and wanted a deal, and then didn't work out, and he wanted to be traded.
But he also blamed Kobe for this.
Right.
He publicly, on my mixtape,
yeah,
Shaq said, even if you get me traded.
Right.
And he's talking about Kobe.
Right, but that's, so imagine though, how literally big was, how big Shaquille was.
Yeah. And he didn't have a say, technically.
Right. So if Shaquille didn't have a say, and he felt a younger kid could have more say than he can with the management, then no one has any say.
Right. Because remember when LeBron joined Miami there was that, like, remember New York had the, come on, LeBron,
Yeah.
come join the Knicks. And everyone's like, no, come join this, come join that. And it really seemed like it was up to LeBron.
Free agency was.
Okay, so he was a free agent at that time.
Free agent. But how you make the team move and what you say, you don't walk in. This is all, movies and Any Given Sunday type thing. You walk in there and demand, you don't really ever see the owners of the squad. 2, if you do, you don't say anything that you don't say anything to the boss. He's the boss of the organization. He's the president, the chairman, the founder of the organization. You don't walk up to him and talk about your minuscule contract. Let's also get that point cleared. The guy who owns the Clippers paid $2.2 billion for it.
Stephen Ballmer.
He paid for it, meaning he had $2.2 billion access to it to buy a basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
You don't walk up to him and say, hey, man, I think we should such and such. He ain't talking to you. And 2, that's not your place to do. You should just shut up and dribble. I'm joking, but I'm not.
Okay, so who's the owner of the Bulls when Jordan?
Reinsdorf.
Okay.
Jerry Reinsdorf.
So Jordan and Reinsdorf never had a relationship like that?
No.
Really?
No.
As big as Jordan was, the face of basketball, not the Bulls, the face of basketball did not have a close relationship with the owner of the Bulls.
No, the owner did, and he had a good enough relationship to say, I want to stay in your system. I want to play baseball on your AAA team, on your AA team, that's what he did.
Oh, because he owned that team as well.
He owns the White
I didn't
Sox.
know that. Okay.
Yeah. But the relationship was the general manager. If you want to talk any business about what's happening on the court,
was
Jerry Krause.
Jerry Krause, right.
Who
was painted like as a villain kind of in The Last Dance.
Yeah, well, in The Last Dance he is. Jerry did some, it's funny. He gave me a shot and then he took the shot away. And then I was like, why? And he always wanted, he loved the Celtics with everything he knew. So to have Robert Parrish on his contract to say that he had a great Celtic, he went with that one instead. But he knew how to put things together. But it was always, remember, if you like to gamble, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna gamble all the time. So he would always tinker and tinker and tinker. But he put together a great team.
Right, because the whole really story of The Last Dance was this was going to be the final season. The coach is going to be gone after this. We're not sure where the players are going to end up. Jordan might stay. Pippen might stay. There's a lot of friction. There's actually a lot of friction with Pippen and the general manager.
Yeah, that was mostly.
There was a lot of friction between these two, but you're right. The owner wasn't really part of this conversation.
Ever. And he's a great guy, too. I do an event with Jerry Reinsdorf and every year in Las Vegas. And he's a great guy, great businessman. But you're not going to walk in and have conversation. I remember when Mr. Davidson, who owned the Pistons, would come around. He was such a nice man, and he was so quiet. And everybody, hey, Mr. D. He's like, hey, how are you? You're not being aggressive and saying anything. And if guys are going in and talking to the management about your play or your job, then they're really not that good. Because if you're that good, you should be so tired when you finish playing, you don't have time to talk about anything else.
Right. Well, I looked it up. Jerry Reinsdorf has a net worth of $1.5 billion, which sounds kind of light, to be honest. This is according to the internet. He made his fortune buying Chicago sports teams, which of course is the Bulls, but he also bought the White Sox in '81 for $19 million and still owns 19% of that. So he must have sold that off at a hefty profit.
Yeah.
$19 million for the White Sox? Shit, I would buy that. If anyone wants to resell it to me for 19, I'll come up with that money. I'll scrape that together. I'll get that loan.
He's a good dude. He's a good guy, man.
$1.5 billion. Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a billionaire.
Yeah. And you're not going to talk to him any kind of way. because he set up, you talk to your coach, and then your coach can talk to the general manager, and then the general manager can talk back to your coach, but you're not going around them to the guy. It's not happening.
Even if you're Jordan, even if you're LeBron, even if you're Kobe.
No, then they wouldn't do that. See, the one thing people realize is these guys realize this is these people's livelihood. That's why Michael Jordan, when they were like, he was so intense when he was playing, because he was trying to get the guys that they picked to be better, not to get rid of. He wasn't looking to bring in anybody, and he was competing with them and going against them because steel usually sharpens steel. It's when the guys looked at it differently. I don't know. I've always played like that. I always played talking a lot of smack and never trying to hurt the guy, but always trying to get over and do something else.
Well, Kawhi Leonard reportedly told the Raptors that he didn't think they were good enough to repeat.
And that's why he left.
That's why he left. Which is a little weird because can you make heads or tails out of that after just winning the finals like that?
If you offered me, pay my taxes, buy my house, what else did they offer him?
Helicopter access?
Like, there's no way. I love Toronto. That's another thing. But I love being in Los Angeles. So I get what he gets to come home. He gets to, he took his team far. Took the Clippers far. Not farther than anybody else, but he took them far. So I think it was a good move to come home. But man, that Toronto life was so great.
Right, because you played for the Raptors.
Yeah, I was on the first Raptor team, and I loved the city. So
the first ever Raptor team.
Yeah.
Wow, when there wasn't a team at all. How did they really sort of materialize an NBA team in Canada?
There was a guy who used to bring us, the Pistons, since the 80s, up to have exhibition games in a city outside of Toronto called Hamilton. And the NBA allowed him to throw in this exhibition. It was like part of our exhibition season. And he kept doing it until they realized that there was a market for it. And so that became our first international team. And then the Timberwolves were in Vancouver, only for a short period of time though. And so they just realized, hey, it's 3 hours from New York. It's right up from Detroit. It's, we can do this. They got a baseball team there. They got a football team in Buffalo, New York. They just felt that if they were going to do something international, it was better be right at that border. And remember, Isaiah Thomas was the owner of that team. So they had their way of thinking they were going to build it. Every day in the paper in Toronto was showing, in the middle of the paper, a new rule that they had to learn. The referee does this means this. And I used to laugh at it because I laughed in 1995 at it, but then they were NBA champions, 30 years later, or 25 years later.
What'd you think of LeBron's 15-year-old son, Bronny, posting himself smoking weed?
Well, marijuana is legal in the state of California.
Yeah, but you have to be 18.
It's legal in the state of state of California. Trees are dope. And the deal is, these are kids. Everybody that's reporting on them are adults. And you forget, not even forget, there was a movie called Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean in the 50s. They just show kids being kids. In the 50s, they showed it. So we've always known that kids are going to be kids. And any adult that forgets what their childhood is a shame. The fact that you are holding it against them, that's what you do. They smoke weed.
Yeah, I didn't hold it against them. I mean, I smoked weed in high school a little bit.
I didn't smoke weed, but
yeah.
The kid's a man. He's almost billionaire.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
He's almost a billionaire.
Yes.
He can smoke weed.
I mean, do you expect his kids to get to a similar level as a LeBron based on what you're seeing so far?
Yeah. Well, Barry Bonds at one time was not better than his father. Ken Griffey Jr. has always been, and then I know people are watching go, who are these people he's talking about? But Ken Griffey Jr., y'all should look him up. Well, Jr. was unbelievable. And they would say how unbelievable Jr. was. And then Barry Bonds just turned into this thing better than his father. But they were tough players, good players.
Yeah, took a while.
Took a while. I think LeBron's kid would know how to deal with the media.
Mm-hmm.
I think the swag would be great, but I also think they'll have it tougher than LeBron had it. Way tougher.
They're under a microscope.
Under a microscope. But they know how to move that way. Like Kobe, because his father was Jelly Bean and then played in the pros and then was, kind of famous in Italy, it was easier. And so when he got into the league, he kind of knew the way of going about it. But the going in your father being one of the greatest ever, all you have to do is be as good as you can possibly be.
What'd you think about the situation where J.R. Smith slapped Anthony Davis and then got slapped by LeBron and that whole thing?
In a squad. I remember one time there was a fight. Tony Campbell was fighting Isaiah and then swung at Isaiah's face. Isaiah said, "Hey man, don't hit me in the face. This is a body fight." I said, "I've never heard of a body fight." I just put it this way, man. Whatever it takes to get your guys to work on the highest level at the top level, that's what you should do.
Well, Doc Rivers became the first head coach to blow 3 series after having a 3-1 lead. And now Doc Rivers is out.
Yeah. I tell you this, last 12 minutes, you either go to the Western Conference Finals or you go home and you don't score in 12 minutes and you're the 2 stars on I'm talking to Kawhi and Paul George. There's no way you would have stopped me, and I'm not even a known scorer, not trying to tear the rim down every time I looked at it. There's just no way that could have happened. You could not have gone 12 minutes without scoring. And for you to blame Doc. Like, if you're up 3-1, I guess Doc got you up 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
So if you then lose those 4 in a row, or 3 in a row, is it Doc?
From your professional point of view, as being playing at the highest level with the best players, with the best coaches, winning championships, if you look at a team, just take a top-down approach, and you look at a team, what percentage of the success of that team is the coach?
7 games. Coaches are great on how to rest a player and how you manage your team through the playoffs. The rest of the time is all players. So I would say the playoffs are more strategic. So I'm going to say out of 82 games, 7.
7 games out of 82.
7 games out of 82. Because if you're balling, he's going to leave you in. But I watched that last game that the Clippers had. That was all on them. They didn't want it. They wanted to get out of the bubble.
That's roughly 10%.
Yeah.
A little bit less, really like 8.5%, but
Right.
we'll round it up to 10. So 90% is on the players, 10% is on the coach.
Yeah, that's why the players make more money.
All of the coaches do pretty well.
They do.
Phil Jackson is not complaining. He's not at the unemployment line.
No, but that
he's an anomaly though.
That was a push by Phil Jackson because college coaches were making more than pro coaches.
This is true.
And so Phil pushed that along with Pat Riley when they were like, "You're paying these guys this much money." They said, "Well, you can pay them more in college because we don't have to pay the players." They played them, but now if you're going to get ridiculed and you got to be in charge of 12 Fortune 500 companies, you should make a lot of money too.
Right. He was making $10 million a year. Well deserved. But then again, he is the greatest coach of all time, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? The average NBA coach ain't making anywhere near that.
I know, but how about the college coaches at Kentucky?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I didn't even think
Cal-
about how, since you don't have to pay the player, you could put all the money into the coach.
Right.
That's
and
crazy.
And the coach gets a sneaker deal. It's not.
This is true.
That's another thing.
Right. And I mean, you look at people like Coach K that could have played at any NBA team they wanted to.
Right.
And they never left college.
I would, let me see, 34 games to 82 games, including playoffs. I would stay in college too. And in college, it doesn't make a difference that you're getting a new player every year. In the pros, it does.
Yeah. So Coach K has a salary of $9 million.
Yeah.
So Phil Jackson was slightly outpacing him, but
More games.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Delonte West. Doc Rivers, who we just talked about, reached out to him. Mark Cuban actually found him.
Yeah.
I guess there's a video that he found him like at a gas station and is trying to help him out. I was actually trying to reach him. I was going to try to interview him and give him some money, to help him out and, try to get a story out there, and just try to figure out what happened and what we could do to help. Because this guy went from playing with LeBron to being drugged out, panhandling on a corner somewhere.
That's mental health issue.
Of course.
That is not at the highest, but if you want to see it go from the heights to the bottom, when I saw the pictures of him, I was blown away. Yeah.
Wasn't Delonte sleeping with LeBron's mom?
I heard.
Remember that?
Yeah,
that whole thing?
I heard. Yeah, they were saying something like that because they wanted a story. They were trying to get in between. And I remember LeBron didn't say anything, had no words for it. And he learned. Like some smart people realize when there's rumors out there about you, don't feed into it and it won't survive.
Right, because back in 2009, while he was still playing for the Cavaliers, he got pulled over on his motorcycle and they found like 2 guns and a shotgun.
He's in Cleveland. Yeah. I keep telling people, they keep forgetting. They just saw The Wire and they just think it's Baltimore. No, that was just the city they picked.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went out in Cleveland one time when I was on the Lakers and they moved everybody out of the way so we can go in the VIP. And I saw the screw faces on the guys who had to move. And then I saw the girls getting giddy, not paying attention to who had, and I said, hey, we got 20 minutes in this club. And we out. 20. They were like, oh, come on, Sal. I said 20 minutes. And then it's like security is grabbing us and we rolling up out of here. If you by yourself, or you're in a situation, that is protection. It is protection. But he must know something we don't know. He must have knew that he needed that.
Yeah, I mean, 3 guns, including a shotgun, it's a bit overkill.
I know, it sounds like a police officer. Especially on a motorcycle, they got the shotgun.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about being in the clubs. I remember I just interviewed Andre Rison. And
Spider-Man.
He had his own set of issues, the left eye and the issue and the Tupac and stuff like that. But, he said something very interesting in the interview. He said, it's very different, dealing with people if they could pull out a phone and look up your salary right then and there.
Wow.
Like, you can't do that with me. You could go on the internet and whatever the internet...
Right.
Whatever that number is, you could run with it if you feel like it. That number is not accurate. But with someone like you, when you were playing, you could literally say, how much did John Salley make this year? Pow.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
What's that?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I've always wondered why, because all these teams are private companies. These are not public companies that have to reveal all their financials every quarter, like a Google or an Amazon. I've always wondered why they would release all these players' salaries and everything else like that to the public. And then you got all these people sort of competing with each other, because for example, Andre had the biggest contract ever for a wide receiver. I think it was like $17 million a year at the time, which these days ain't shit. But at the time, it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
These days, you got, Pat Mahomes making $200 million, whatever. But still, he was saying, yo, this was an issue. I needed to hook up with BMF and get my security up and everything else like that because people were trying to jack him. People were, you could look him up. This is how much you make. And you had that same thing happen.
Right. My situation, which I said, I thought it was going to cause a good thing, right? Guys go, man, they're giving away that kind of money. But then the NBA had a salary cap, so everybody under that number, you got to fight for your money, and you're going to have guys going, man, just come on, man, it's a team thing, and just play. Those guys already have secured contracts. Mm-hmm. It's not a team thing; it's an individual thing that you get to do on a team. I go to Miami, and those guys were just so pissed off that I got the money that I wind up not really getting tight with anybody except, I got like 5 guys out of 12. And the other 6 are mad that I got the money that they thought their friend should have gotten. You run into it constantly. And then when people look at your dough, they count it too. They count what you should be doing.
I go through that shit.
I know, but I've been taking care of people for 35 years now. And so it's like I got to a point where I just accepted that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I was just going to be a caretaker.
Yeah. But why do you think they release the salaries like this? Why do they put it front and center like that?
Negotiation. So if they have a salary cap, just picking a number, $50 million, and they give you $25 million. Now you don't have to wonder if you can now go get $25 million because the other $25 million is for the rest of the team.
Okay.
So that right there tells them the agents can come in and say, I'm going to do this and do that. So we don't have any money.
But why can't these just be private negotiations?
Because
why
they can't use it on you later. They can't say, because you see articles sometimes that way too much the writer knows. And you say, and you call it's so funny in media, you guys call it reliable source. And I always say, if it's not from the source, it's not reliable. But a reliable source. That means the general manager released this information. And they use the media, they use the sports media journalists to negotiate and to keep people in place. Because if a journalist says something, he writes a whole article, does a commentary, the player doesn't get to respond. So it kind of keeps you in place. And when you're saying it's but like the Celtics are a public company, publicly traded company.
Okay.
So they put, that's their excuses for putting it up. That's their excuse.
Yeah, but everyone does it.
Everybody
does it. So really it doesn't hold a lot of water.
No.
Yeah. Well, your homie Isaiah Thomas said that LeBron will surpass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the GOAT. Have you heard that?
No. As the greatest of all time in scoring? Because Kareem played 20 years and has 42,000 points. Yeah. I just want LeBron just to be LeBron. They want him to be something else.
Direct quote from Isaiah. Look, at every legend's coaching tree, you can see how philosophically their greatness is formed. Kareem, Magic, Bird, Jordan, myself, you can look at our coaches in college and pros and study the way we learn the game. LeBron James came out of high school. Who was his teacher? LeBron is a genius-type basketball mind, and that's why I refer to him as the Einstein of basketball. I admire his insatiable appetite to be at the top and stay on top. I've never seen a player dominate so many statistical categories. We've had players dominate certain areas, but we've never seen a player that truly does it all. And he's done it without fail for 17 years. For now, Kareem is the best player that's ever done it, but by the time he's done, LeBron James will be the best we have ever seen play the game of basketball.
Okay, technically, he's telling you the truth. Kareem had the most points. Kareem had the greatest coaching and the greatest demeanor on top of it. But to think that LeBron was watching the NBA and playing 2K and turned into what this is, or what he's become, that's literally him saying, I'm going to be, it's like being the Dalai Lama. It is. It's like, hey, you're going to be the chosen one. You're going to take it or not. And he took it. I tell you, when I watch him play, I can't imagine. I'm 6'11". He's 6'11", 6'10". He's 265 pounds with 5% body fat. I'm 248 pounds with 15% body fat. Like, this dude is, and he's jumping 50 inches or 40-something inches off the ground all the time. He's 6'10" and can shoot the ball from 4 feet behind the three. He can dribble right hand, left hand. It'd be really hard to play him. It'd be really hard. I would literally punch him in his hand. It's the only thing I'd be able to do. I'd act like it, and I would just try to break one of these, act like I'm breaking it. And he'll be like, man, once I see him doing that, I'd be like, thank God, I hope he don't shoot with that hand.
So Jordan and LeBron in their prime, one-on-one?
One-on-one?
I guess that's a different question.
Okay,
right?
one-on-one, LeBron's going to win because he's 6'10".
Okay.
All you got to do is back him down, put his hand up. If you got guys around getting in the way, Michael can do some things.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But LeBron, 6'10", will just post him up.
There's the whole story about Vanessa Bryant kicking out her mom, kicking her out of the house, taking her car back. And now the mom is doing interviews.
Okay. But it's Vanessa's mom.
Yes.
So Vanessa must know something. You can pick your clothes, you can pick your nose, you can't pick your family.
Right. You're stuck with them.
Stuck with them. So if Vanessa feels that after 22 years, she has to disassociate herself with her mom.
That's Vanessa's choice.
And if her mom is doing interviews, then Vanessa was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
I mean, I'm not close to my family.
Oh, no?
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Certain things happen and you realize that this person is interfering with your actual family.
Yes.
You know, the family you chose.
The family I made.
Yeah, the family you made. And you just say, okay. That's why when I saw that, I'm like, I get it. I get it.
What did she say she did?
Vanessa's mom?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I just know that she did it.
I didn't watch it very carefully, to be honest. But there was the video about her. Yeah, you know, she kicked me out of the house. She took my car back. She's, you know, and it's like, and this is a very interesting story because Kobe disassociated himself with his family when he got married, right? So it was really Vanessa's.
Some of them.
Not his parents. His parents weren't around.
No, his sisters and nephews were around.
Okay, but I'm saying his parents were not around. And then you kind of saw them, you know, they were like selling some of his memorabilia.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't speak at his funeral, everything else like that. And now you're seeing the same thing happen with Vanessa's side of the family. I don't know. I mean, listen, what Vanessa is going through, nobody could prepare themselves for. She is going through an unbelievably traumatic experience to lose her husband and her daughter all in one day. Mm-hmm. You know, if she wants to tell her family to go fuck themselves right now, that is 100% within her rights.
This is what people need to realize. Vanessa didn't go loony, lay down, take pills, go in the hospital. She kept it moving.
Right.
You had to have done something really poorly, really bad choices, poor choices for your daughter to put you out of the house and take away your vehicle. It cannot be on Vanessa. It can't be Vanessa was tripping and she took it out on her mom. You have to realize that there had to be something there to do, because this is the time where Vanessa would have been looking for any kind of comfort and grabbing. So for her to say she kicked me out the house, that's amazing.
Yeah. Clearly, there's something that happened very seriously, and for the mom to turn around relatively quickly and start doing interviews means that there's some deep hatred going on and going down to the bone.
I don't even want to know it.
I don't even want to know.
I don't even want to know.
I feel you. Well, Jordan's actually starting a NASCAR team. You heard about this?
Thank God. Yeah, but this is why.
Bubba Wallace, you know,
Yes.
who, remember the whole noose incident and everything else like that, is going to be on his team.
Well, one, it helps NASCAR, right?
A black
it helps
owner.
NASCAR. It takes away that look.
Mhm.
It shows diversity. Tim Brown used to play with the Raiders. He was one of the first NASCAR owners. NASCAR had a diversity situation they were putting together, and it was the Busch Lead, which is the Saturday race. Then Sunday is the NASCAR race. That's how much I was getting into it. Like, I love car racing. And for Michael Jordan to be in North Carolina, which, you know, is, I guess, the mecca for NASCAR, it would make sense that not only do you have a team, a basketball team, you should have the biggest sport there is. Brad Daugherty was the #1 pick out of North Carolina in 1986, went to the Cleveland Cavaliers, center, is the commentator for ESPN for NASCAR. That's how much this 6'11" guy knew about driving. When I read that Michael did that, I thought it was great. I thought it was great that Bubba was one of his drivers. I think they need to look at it not just for color. You want the best driver you can possibly get, but I'm glad that the driver they got was black. I'm glad the first driver.
Right, because he already owns the Hornets.
Mhm.
He's the principal owner. You know, that team has done okay. You don't really see him going to the finals all that often. Ever? Have they ever been in the finals?
No, nowhere close. No.
So it's just, you know, it almost seems like, you know, for Jordan to own a team like that is almost like he could say he owns an NBA team, but he doesn't really put the effort into it like a Mark Cuban. Well, going to go in and just say, all right, I'm going to really take this team to the top.
Well, he started showing up. He started showing more interest. It's just that he's in North Carolina and they didn't have all the attributes they needed to win. And it takes a lot. Look at Milwaukee has everything in the world and can't get over the hump. But when it comes to NASCAR, you know, you get a guy who's been doing, go-karts since he was a little kid. That's the guy you want on your squad. So I feel good for him that he stayed in the sports arena. And this is way better money. I might go and assist. I should call money and say,
there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Let me get some things done.
Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones.
Mike Tyson.
Originally it was supposed to be Mike Tyson Holyfield. Now it has become Roy Jones.
It's a bad fight.
Roy Jones is considering backing out, from what I understand.
He should.
Yeah.
Did you see Mike Tyson training?
Yeah.
At 55 years old?
Yeah.
Dog, he's fighting for a different reason. See, that's another thing. He's not fighting. Now, he's not fighting because he has to. He finally got his life, finances, life where it is, and it's stable. So now he's fighting because he wants to. And he's training because it was something he was used to. And the fact that he's even closer, there's no way of fighting Mike Tyson. That'd be the dumbest fight any fighter would take, especially an older one.
Right, because I just interviewed Buster Douglas.
Oh, how's my boy? I like Buster.
Doing well.
I like Buster.
He's doing well because we talked about the unbelievable depression he went through after losing to Holyfield.
Mm-hmm.
He went from 240 pounds to 400 pounds. He became diabetic and ended up in a diabetic coma. And we talked about this. He had never had diabetes before.
Right.
After losing that fight, he just fell into such a bad place that he just started eating and not really doing anything else.
Yeah, he wasn't eating food, eating plastic and sugar.
Yeah, whatever the hell he was eating. Because I don't know if you remember back in the 90s, there was a Sports Illustrated article about him. And he just looked crazy.
Yeah.
He was so fat and big. And like, I'm like, this, it didn't even look like the same human being.
I know we used him in a commercial in the Best Damn Sports Show.
Oh, really?
And he was big. And we did this thing where we were like action figures. And Buster was there and I couldn't believe.
Yeah. He looks, I mean, he's still, he's still big, but he's not as big as he was. And, we just talked about the whole thing because that fight right there is the biggest upset in sports history. Well, I mean, number one, I actually am old enough to watch this fight with all my friends on TV. This was not just the biggest upset in boxing, not just the biggest heavyweight upset, but the biggest upset in sports history. Like I said, you were 42-1 against you winning this fight. And you turn around and you beat the guy that nobody thought was beatable. So it is unbelievably my honor to sit down with you today.
Yeah, it's all right. This is cool.
Yeah, the money.
42-1 odds.
I know. And they were fighting in Asia.
They were fighting in Japan. And do you know why they were fighting in Japan?
Because that's where the money is.
Because he was viewed as such a weak opponent that nobody in the U.S. wanted to take that fight on. They didn't think they were going to sell tickets, even with Mike Tyson on the bill.
Wow.
They had to go to Japan because that was the only way they could make their money back in terms of the live event. That's why they ended up over there.
Yeah, that was a bad day for me. I was watching it.
I was watching it. We're old enough to actually have seen it live.
Yeah.
I was talking to some of my staff. They didn't even know who that was. I'm like, let me tell you guys who this is.
Oh,
there have been a lot of upsets, but none on the caliber. In fact, we talked about this. Tyson was bigger than Jordan at that time.
As big. Well, yeah, he was more well-known in the world. He was 19-year-old champion. Yeah.
19-year-old boxing heavyweight champion. And he would not win like, Mayweather would win, where he would go all 12 rounds and strategically outdo the person. He would go in there in 30 seconds, knock him the fuck out.
And we would say that too. How long you think this fight's gonna last?
No, and I remember we were talking about this, how like the ESPN commentators were like, and this fight coming up will not last longer than this segment that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Nobody thought he was gonna win. only one Vegas casino would even take odds with him winning. And they made it 42-1. That means if you put in $160,000 on Tyson and he won, you would have $4,000 as your winnings. But if you put in $10,000 on Douglas, you'd walk away with $422,000. Damn near $500,000. And he just went in there and he said,
I got nothing to lose.
I was prepared. His mom had just died like 2 weeks before, three weeks before. He had trained. He had prepared.
And Mike didn't train, right?
He didn't train. Remember, they didn't have like that pack for his face. They had to put a balloon. They took a rubber glove, and filled it with water to put it on Mike's face.
Yeah,
it was a total fiasco.
It was the worst day. Like, we thought it was fake. I remember thinking, this didn't just happen. And it was, I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry for Mike. I felt sorry for Mike when he bit Holyfield ear too. I was there. He just felt
you were in the crowd?
He can do. Yeah. There was nothing he can do. I don't know if I ever told a story, but I used to, we both from Brooklyn. I had been around Mike. He would do, come to my neighborhood. I had John Salley there in my project, Bayview Housing. And Mike, Special Ed rolled up. Mike Tyson rolled up. And, people didn't know what to do. They just stare there and look at him. They don't run up on him because he was that fearless. And he saw me on TV because he didn't really watch basketball or anything. And he saw that I was playing against the Knicks. So he just got in his car and came to the Garden. And when he pulled up, he's Mike Tyson. There is no tickets. He walked in and he comes right behind the bench. He's like, Sal. I thought, what's up, money? What? The game was going on. It's like a Sunday afternoon game. And I'm like this. And Adrian Dantley, Bill Lambiera's not saying anything. Chuck Daly's just staring at him. Isaiah Thomas is like, Sal. No one said, Sal, get your head in the game. Nobody. We lose the game. He comes in the locker room after Chuck is doing it, but he comes in the locker room. No one knows what to say. He goes, hey, fellas. I said, Mike, none of these cats think I know you. He goes, no, this is my man. We go back. We grew up together. And they were just staring at me. Isaiah, can I have your sneakers? Isaiah was like, Isaiah would tell you. Isaiah was like, here, you can have my sneakers. Like, people were afraid of Mike. But he was the nicest cat in the world. And I look back at it now because I was I told y'all I knew the champ. That was more important to me. It's my man. I've been around him. Mark Breland was my favorite boxer to me in Brooklyn, but Mike Tyson was more famous. But Mark Breland was the man.
That fight for Tyson to lose, and you see him trying to find his mouthpiece as he was on the ground. That's when Buster said, okay, he's done. He wasn't sure. He was ready for Tyson to get back up in the 10th round. But he said when Tyson was trying to find the mouthpiece, he said, because listen, if you're in a fight, if you're in a boxing match like that, you don't care about your mouthpiece. You need to get back up before the 10 count. They'll give you the mouthpiece later. As long as you're up, you're up. But when he's like trying to find the mouthpiece, he said, oh yeah, that's done.
I could not believe that fight. I'm telling you, it was one of the worst. Everything was silent. Everybody was just thinking too much was going on with Mike. And if I think hard enough, I can tell you the things that were going on around it because, Mike would just run his 10 miles. Everybody else is running 5. Michael would run 10. Mm-hmm. And you would see Michael running, and that's all you would see. If you see him running, it looked like he was flying, like he was running full speed. And so that's all the shape you needed. I was in Oak Hill's boxing gym yesterday. I still am in the boxing gym. It's so funny you bringing up boxing. And all these young Latinos, and they were like, oh, you got something. I was like, yeah, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing.
Right, because, actually, when I talked to Michael Jai White the other day, who's a real fighter, since he was a kid and still trains with MMA guys and everything else like that, he said that fight is not as uneven as you think it is, Roy Jones and Mike Tyson.
It is.
He said it's not as uneven because he said, number one, we talked about Roy Jones was the most incredible person ever to hit you with combinations. He would hit you with a 20-punch combination before you knew what the fuck happened accurately. And I guess what he had said, which was really funny to me, is that he learned how to fight by catching chickens when he was young.
Really?
His dad would make him catch chickens. And if you want to catch a chicken, you can't telegraph. You got to be able to strike out and grab the chicken, because if you start to flinch a little bit, the chicken it'd be gone. So that's how he learned to fight and punch with chickens.
Okay, but
where is in Pensacola, Florida, wherever the hell he grew up in. And he was saying how, Roy Jones is deadly. Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones sounds crazy.
It don't sound that crazy to me.
You think?
No, it don't sound that crazy to me. Only because the issue here, when you're at a kind of an advanced age, is endurance. You know what I mean? You could have all the weapons in the world. If your endurance goes, you're feckless. See what I'm saying? So imagine Roy Jones moves around and Tyson gets tired because he's, who knows what? I mean, I'm not surprised when Tyson looks dangerous. He's got fast twitch muscle, right? When you have fast twitch muscle, that you can lose your explosion easier. You tend to, it's like a sprinter. The short distance you're good at. The endurance thing, no. That's where you falter. So it's like Roy Jones, Mike Tyson. It's interesting how many people really catch Roy Jones clean.
Okay, but Roy Jones is a technical fighter that goes on points, right? He was really smart at being on points. I kind of pissed Roy off because, you know, I don't really know sports or watch them like people think I do. I like what I like. But, you know, I was like, man, you got knocked out and you was like on the ground looking like, and I'm not realizing how bad this is a thing to say to somebody. You know, you were like, yo, he dunked on you. I'm like, yeah, he got me. But when you say it to a boxer, I was like, you were looking up in the eyes, you were ready to fight just you was on your back. And people were joking and laughing. And he got his entourage around and Roy was not happy with that. All right, I got over it. Dog, I'm just clowning. That was 2004, maybe 2000. So 16 years ago, Roy Jones was knocking and was really good at doing whatever. That was 16 years ago, though. So at 46, 48 years old, whatever he may be now, it's a different feeling. And
he's 51.
51. And he's not going to knock out Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson is an up-close boxer.
Yeah. Mike Tyson's going to try to knock him out.
Right.
He doesn't think it's an exhibition fight.
Mike doesn't strike long punches. He gets close and strikes. So that means, and if you don't let him get you, but he's not going to be reaching to hit you.
Yeah.
But I also don't see how that helps Roy Jones.
Well, listen, I remember, you know, you told me that story about Roy Jones when I interviewed Fat Joe, and Fat Joe put the line in about, you know, even Roy Jones was forced to lean back, you know, the lean back song. And he was saying how when he ran into Roy, I guess Roy was kind of angry over that line. And he was like, he said he begged Roy Jones not to knock him out. He was like, Roy, please don't do this because these guys around me might kill you afterwards. So let's, you know, you will not, you know, he's like, listen, you're a boxer. I'm not. I'm Fat Joe, right? I'm big, but you do this professionally. Like, you could probably do it, but these people with me are not going to just sit back and watch it. So please, let's just chill. And they ended up just chilling.
Roy Jones had recently, he was like the undefeated champion, and then he got knocked out. So it was a line towards like even Roy Jones is forced to lean back. Like lean back, the song was so powerful, he even leaned back.
He approached you at one point.
Yeah, I don't think I regret it. I don't think I regret the bar, right? But I do regret that, you know, I was cool with him and he felt like I disrespected.
Oh, you were cool with him before that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was wrong. It was wrong.
Now, correct me. I remember I read a story that said
He
that
came to beat me up
he came to beat you up.
in real life.
He's not that big, though.
No, he could knock you out. He's the champion of the world.
He was a champion. Well, he's the middleweight champion of the world.
He could knock you out. I'm not a boxer.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So Roy Jones came to knock out Fat Joe.
Okay.
Had his getaway plan and everything. He got that motherfucker was gone in half a
He'll
minute.
hit you and then bounce. Okay.
Man, I had to tell him, please don't knock me out, man, Roy.
That's the
said,
story?
Yeah, that's the story. The story is I was telling him, yo, it's just hip hop, and he persisted and persisted. I said, yo, Roy, look, you're gonna knock me out. No question. You're gonna knock me out. When you see them 150 guys over there, they're not gonna be cool with that, and nobody's gonna fight you. And he looks to the side, he sees 150 niggas, he looks at me, he goes, so it was just hip hop? I said, even at that, he said, it's like, yo, Roy, it's just hip hop, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean,
but Roy, I feel you. I mean, Roy got that anger in him.
He does, man. He said something, and I was like, you know, and I'm always clowning. I'm always trying to like lighten the spot, but not everybody, you know, wants to hear that. And he was raising dogs, breeding his dogs, and he had all these different dogs. And it was a bad time because, you know, Michael Vick just was getting in trouble with him.
Right.
And so they were hoping that he wasn't involved in that either. And he wasn't, you know, just an animal lover, a dog lover, down in Mexico. And then he would do his commentating. He made some sense. which a lot of guys, get to a point don't, but Roy really understood it. I really liked him as we've covered him so much. I really like him. I just don't want to see him do it. It's like versus. I don't want to see everybody in versus.
Well, yeah, I mean, I interviewed Adrian Broner, and he said that he hopes no one dies in that ring with Roy Jones and Mike Tyson, because those are now guys in their 50s.
Yeah, and you shouldn't get hit.
You don't heal up the same way, and he respects both of those guys, and he hopes that nothing bad happens. As a professional boxer, when you think of a matchup of Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr., and you're a betting man, if I'm like, all right, cool, bets right now, who you got your money on?
I can't bet. I can't bet on that. You got two
You can't bet on that.
You got two of my favorite fighters in the world, and they're fighting each other. I just got to stay neutral, man. I just hope nobody get hurt, because they both is up in age, and in this game you can get fucked up bad.
Although Tyson is in a better place and everything else like that, I think Tyson still snaps. Like, I don't know if you saw that interview he did with TK Kirkland.
Well, TK will make you.
But what TK said wasn't that bad, because Tyson's like, yeah, and I had $100 million and I hated myself. And TK's like, no, you didn't hate yourself. Who the fuck are you to tell me I didn't hate myself? Who the fuck are you talking for me? And he's calling him names and stuff like that. He's like, don't tell me how the fuck I felt. He's like, no, man, I'm just saying that, I'm like, I don't care, don't tell me how I felt. Like, it's like, yo, we just had a Tyson moment. Like, yo.
Yeah, I said he has them sometimes.
Things could have gone left. And I remember like Michael Franzese, who had been on Tyson's podcast, and I guess they hung out. And what Tyson told him, he was telling me on camera, was that Tyson's like, listen, man, I just like watching things fight. I could sit there and watch two bugs fight all night. I just like fighting. This is all I like to do. That's really what I'm into.
With Mike Tyson the other night, we went to dinner, and we were talking about, he's training. He looks great, by the way. He's in great shape, and, he's training for a fight. So I said, Mike, are you going to really do that MMA thing? And he was with two of his trainers, and they said, no, we don't want him doing that. But I said, Mike, do you enjoy that? He says to me, Michael, I love to watch two bugs fight. I'll watch them fight all night long. He said, I want to see everybody fight, and I want to watch it all night long.
That's true, though. I don't like to argue, but I like to see things fight. Like when they put, and I don't like saying, but I like to see things fight. I love the bug wars on the internet, the praying mantis versus. I love watching that.
Dr. Dre,
yes,
hip hop's first billionaire, is now in the middle of a nasty divorce. A nasty divorce. Yeah. My God.
Yeah, I know them both.
Oh, really? Was it Nicole?
Yeah,
Nicole Young?
Nicole from her first marriage, and then my daughter Tyler and their son are really, really tight.
Oh, so Nicole was married to someone else?
She was married to an NBA player way in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
And but you couldn't tell me she and Dre weren't meant for each other. No, it was a trip. Like, they were connected, and that was it. They were like connected, and she was down with him, and she would, things run their course. Mm-hmm. I don't know the inner dwellings. I just know from being married 27 years, the times I was thinking about being divorced, and the times I was thinking about leaving and starting over. You can't start over. When you start a family, then that family is already started. You can start another family, but you can't start over. I read this piece that said, if there's no love, add love. If you say, I'm just going to go, there's no more love there, then put it there. And you be the one to put it in the situation if that's what you want to do. If it's at that point where they feel they no longer, or they've heard all of each other's jokes. They don't like that you don't close the drawer. If you got to a point where you want to do something different, this is the time. But I read, go ahead and tell me, man, $2 million just for entertaining or something like that.
Yeah, she wanted $2 million a month.
Right. But okay, so let's go over that. Because people who don't make this kind of money don't get it. Jay-Z and Beyonce make $2 million a day. So if they make $2 million a day and she's married to a guy that got $1 billion, she wants $24 million.
Right. There's a breakdown of that $2 million.
Yes.
Laundry and cleaning, $10,000 a month. Clothes, $135,000 a month. Telephone, cell phone, and email, $20,000 a month. Not sure what kind of phone that is, but I need to get up on that.
She's talking to the president.
Education, tuition and living expenses, $60,000 a month. Entertainment, $900,000 a month. God damn.
She got to entertain. They bought a house from Gabrielle and from Brady.
Okay.
Right? They bought that house for $54 million.
Right, but okay, charitable contributions $125,000 a month, and mortgage is $100,000 a month. So that living expenses thing doesn't include the mortgages. That's a whole separate six-figure check. Listen, from what I understand, there was a prenup because Dre was already rich.
Prenup only lasts 8 years in the state of California.
Really?
Yeah. And when you get divorced, you have to pay alimony to your wife forever unless she remarries. I got all the rules. Cheaper to keep her. My mama, Natasha's cute. I tell her, I said, boy, I still like you. She said, thank God. I said, yeah. Yeah, 8 years.
They had a prenup, but apparently he ripped it up in front of her. But I guess that was just
it may be ripped up in front of you, but that doesn't mean that the courts don't have your papers that you came out with.
Yes. It's just unfortunate that things have to get ugly. And now they're accusing her of stealing $300,000 from a bank account and all this other weird shit that, I don't know if it's true or not. It just seems, as long as those two have been together, and how many years were they married? Like
25.
25 years? They were married in the 90s.
Yeah. 1990 to now.
Okay. 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years. So it was 1997.
Let's look it up real quick.
Yeah.
You're right, 1996.
Yeah, 96.
24
years ago. Mm-hmm.
24 years. It just seems to me like, look, you guys were married over 2 decades. You have like one child together, I think. Mm-hmm. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been made along the way. No one in a situation is expected to walk away broke, but Dre has so much money that it seems like it could just be worked out off the media. Like, okay, look, I'm going to give you this many millions of dollars. You could have this house, that, let's just keep it out the courts. Let's leave it, let's not do the circus. Look, Jeff Bezos gave his wife a massive chunk, and then he made it back. When Amazon stock went up, she became the richest woman on earth.
Right.
When he gave her that money. Russell Simmons and Kimora got divorced.
$150 million. Now she's married a billionaire. Kimora did better.
Right. But I'm saying, when they got divorced,
really good
Russell made sure she good, made sure the kids are good. Everyone's cool, everyone's happy, as opposed to having this like animosity, hateful, angry.
We're in Los Angeles, though. So in Los Angeles, this is the routine that the lawyers take. The routine the lawyers take. So for their next client, if you get Marty Singer, you usually win everything. So you got to know that. You got to know. Go get Singer if you can. But it's not about money, obviously, because they made tons of money. And Bob Johnson gave his wife, he sells BET for $3 billion. She gets $1.5 billion and then marries the judge that gave her the money, right? The smartest judge in the world. That guy can judge talent. And That guy was a smart judge, boy. But and I know Miss Johnson. Mrs. Johnson, she's smart, and at that point, 1.5 billion. Here in California, everything is petty. So to get to a number, they just start filling in things. And then 900,000 may be for the security, the jet, what the villa costs.
Yeah, listen,
Yeah.
I hope it gets worked out
I do
between just
too.
the two of them, because look, I know everyone's angry right now.
It's just money.
It's just money, and it can be made back.
Yeah.
Dre is still making money. He's still making royalties off everything. He's got an incredible catalog. He sold the company for a lot of money. I'm sure that money got invested and made even more money.
Is
along the
why
way.
maybe her claims are correct, because behind every good man is a woman.
Yeah,
holding
and
him
she
up.
was there. She should not walk away with nothing,
right.
prenup or not.
Right.
He should take care of her properly,
Yeah.
and hopefully it gets worked out.
I like them both. I'm a huge Dre fan. I had to pull him aside too and let him know that, because a lot of guys may think one way. When I was on radio, I said something. It was a trip. I said I was at the thing where the fashion thing that Suge, the guy, like tried to snuff, and then he got shanked and beat down, but Dre still went up on stage.
Oh, the Vibe Awards.
Vibe Awards.
The Vibe Awards, when this guy punched Suge.
No.
No. Sorry. The Vibe Awards where Suge sent a guy to go punch Dre. He punched Dre and then got stabbed by Young Buck from G Unit.
Okay, so this was a trip.
I actually talked to the guy who stabbed him.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Off camera.
It wasn't Young Buck that stabbed him.
No, I'm sorry. No, I talked to the guy who punched Dre
Okay,
and got stabbed by Young Buck.
so Russell Simmons and I were standing here.
Mm-hmm.
We're standing, and we just happened to look this way, and then all of a sudden, Suge was right behind us.
Yeah.
And I said, "What's up? What's up, man?" He said, "What's going on over here?" And then some stuff happened, and then we saw there was a scuffle or whatever, and I'm standing up looking, I can see, and I then turned, and Suge was like, "What happened over there? What happened over there?" And I was like, "Oh, man." Right? Like, I ain't had nothing to do with it, Sal. I'm over here standing with you. And I'm like, oh, the next day I'm on the radio. Or the time down, I was on the radio. And I said, yo, I was there. I said, Dre should fire his security. You should never let anybody walk up on him, especially with this situation. I know how it is. I said this on radio, and Dre got mad at me because his boys had said, yo, Sally's talking shit about you on the radio. No, I didn't say nothing about Dre. I had Dre.
Security.
He should fire those cats.
Right. But to be fair, I knew people that were there as well. Suge was not invited to that event. He showed up, however many deep, and just pushed the security out the way and went in there.
Oh, then that's not good security.
Okay. So basically, and I forgot, me and this guy, the guy that actually got stabbed and punched Dre, we had a conversation. I honestly don't remember. I mean, it wasn't as clear cut as Suge said to go do that. There was something else. I think he had felt some type of way about Dre, or he felt snubbed by Dre or something like that. I think he took it upon himself. Now that I think about the conversation happened like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was more to the story, but it was sort of this weird, convoluted story. But yeah, he got stabbed, and
Dre got better. Dre all of a sudden
Dre
cut
got
his
better.
body up,
yeah,
got into his health. It was just, but the best thing about that situation was like he got up on stage and he had got hit and he was like,
yeah, they can't stop me.
Can't stop me.
Yeah,
And
I
I
heard that.
loved, and I told him, I said, dude, that was the thing for me. I loved your music, but that whole idea, like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna stop me, I liked the most.
I feel the
But
same way.
I feel for them. I feel for them that they're breaking their union as husband and wife, but the money is just money. I think the media and everybody else is getting involved in it. If she said to Dre, give me $500 million, he would write a $500 million check with no problem. So just getting back to it, I think just the media getting a hold of what these lawyers always mess up everything. They get in the way of mostly every problem.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm in now, man. I had to sue Flower One, man.
You're suing Flower One, the company that you were touting.
I was touting, man. They turned out to be shady.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Me too.
I hate that shit.
I do too.
I hate that shit.
And because I got lawyers who are just like, you know what I'm saying? And I said, yo, when I meet people like that, I go, yo, I'm gonna need you guys, I'm sure. And as soon as I, send the contract over, they clear and cut and dry. They were like, all right, let's go. You wanted to be public? In October, I wanted to be public. So since this is coming on, you can hear about it from me. But yeah, there's not enough black people in the cannabis business, and the ones that are shouldn't get fucked over.
Yeah, Freeway Ricky was here the other day.
Yeah. I'm on a social equity like him. And you're just not gonna, one, not give us the money to do it, and then two, shit on me later.
And let me tell you something, man. I had this moment, right? Me and Ricky talked about this afterwards. And I'm not going to put any names out there because this is their own personal business. But when he came by, I said, you know something? I know a weed company around here that does things on kind of a big level. And he's like, oh, no, I know those guys. Can you introduce me? I said, absolutely. Made a phone call. We all went down there together. And, I brought Ricky, and then they brought the owner of this company. And the two of them sat down, and I got to see an actual drug deal in front of my eyes. And they're like, okay, we're gonna do, all right, cool, let's do it. Okay, cool. And yeah, we can do that part. How much does you need? Okay, cool, I got that. And then right then and there, they were doing a drug deal. And I felt like I was, watching Blow or something. I'm watching, I don't want to say Snowfall because he hates that show. But I mean, I was watching this drug deal come together with a couple, and the guy that's with the weed company is like this kind of like middle-aged white guy, who I think has been involved in some other shit too. And it's like, so you got these two, kind of big drug dealers working out a deal in front of everyone, and the speed that it happened at was like I've never seen in a business before.
Well, let me just say,
it was crazy.
Cannabis is not a drug; it's a plant.
I know this, but what I'm saying is it's a legal drug. Just like a lot of people got mad at me, right? Because I said, look, if you look at a bunch of the hip hop billionaires, they did not get there through music. They're essentially drug dealers. Jay-Z and Puffy. They are both basically legal drug dealers at this point, because most of the money that they have made did not come from music. It came from alcohol. Puffy has Ciroc, which he doesn't own, but he owns a piece of, and he's, like the big name behind that. That brand was around for like 7 years until Puffy came in and put his muscle behind it and turned it into an international phenomenon. And then Jay-Z has Ace of Spades and Douce, which is the major part of his net worth. Like Jay-Z's a billionaire because of liquor, not because of his music.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. The music was the seed. But
really,
other incinerators come from that.
And liquor is just drugs.
At first, yeah.
Well, no. I mean, they became billionaires by drug dealing. It just happens to be liquor. Jay-Z, when you look at his net worth, a lot of it is from Douce and Ace of Spades.
Value, yeah.
Yes. That's where the majority of his wealth comes from. You look at Puffy, and the Ciroc in 2020 is his main focus.
Yeah.
Yes, he has a bad boy catalog. Yes, he's got some TV properties that he did and stuff like that. Revolt doesn't make very much money. Revolt is struggling. But really, Ciroc is what brings in most of his net worth.
2.5 million cases.
That's what I'm saying. And you could say what you want, but liquor is drugs.
Liquor is drugs. Cannabis isn't.
Okay. Agree to disagree on that.
Whatever. A drug is usually things made inside of a factory. I have to keep pushing this cannabis.
All right.
I always push it.
However you want to say it, they make their money through selling addictive products. Well, Akon was here not too long ago.
I'm still trying to meet up with Akon.
Oh, really? I'll mention it next time.
Thank you.
I'll mention it next time I talk to him.
Because he talked about a city, and then I send you things every time I see black folks trying to have a city. And I wanted to talk to him about the city and being in Senegal, and just couldn't meet up with him. But I'm a huge fan of him.
I'm a longtime fan, and we've had a relationship before VladTV.
Yes.
But for me, Akon is, I think, the most important person that I've ever interviewed.
Really?
Yes. Because we just did Shaka Khan, who has 10 Grammys, and, Rodney Jerkins, who sold 1 billion albums and everything else like that. But Akon brought electricity to 350 million homes in Africa. That's not entertainment. That's necessity. You're transforming lives. I don't care how smart you are. If you are growing up in a city with no electricity, you're going to be a fucking farmer. And that's that.
But I wanted to ask him.
Yeah.
The reason you don't put lights in the Congo is so they can't see it. Because once you put electricity through the Congo, you now get to see where all of the natural resources are. And I felt, I understand the idea and what he was doing. I thought that was cool. And the fact that the money came from the Asian market was cool.
China, and I was going to mention this, China gave him $1 billion loan for solar panels, because that was how they got the electricity into Africa. You do business with China, right? Because they gave you $1 billion loan for these solar panels?
Yeah. As China has such a huge economy that China itself is not big enough for the economy that they built for them. And they need a place or a partner to expand that economy, because China alone can't do it. And their relations with US, as you can see, is it's getting worse and worse every day.
But think about this. In Ghana, right? There's a water company, right? Some of the cleanest water. In Nigeria, they are opening up their first refinery, Black-owned, which is the 3rd largest oil supplier to the world, finally is getting a refinery, as opposed to people saying, well, what are you talking about? Well, when you're driving down the 405 and you go by the refineries, you can bring all that out of the water or out of the ground. It still has to be refined for us to use it. And they didn't have that part of it done. They didn't have it where everything was done self-sufficient. We still were, even in Africa, relying on others. What I wanted to talk to Akon about, because I watch him on all these videos, is once he got the billion, was there $5 billion to follow? Like $1 billion is one thing, but now it takes, what is it, $8 billion to build the stadium?
Well, what he said was very interesting. And of course, all the conspiracy theorists are all like thinking that this is all bullshit, but whatever. I'm going to take the word of someone that actually knows what he's talking about and actually meets with presidents of countries and everything else like that. He said, and this is something that, you and I have talked about before. He said that no country has done more good for Africa than China.
True.
He said that China is, number one, China 30 years ago was what Africa is today. People think China's always been a superpower. Not so.
No.
Not so. They had a massive ramp up over 30 years. And as they're growing, they need a market for all their goods. The US is not doing too well in terms of their relations with China right now. So the choices were either Africa or India. They went with Africa. And they have gone in there and they've established relationships with the presidents of all these different countries. And some people are jealous of those relationships, and people try to say that Africa is just trying to, is being raped by China and whatever else. But in fact, China has actually helped that continent more so than anybody else.
Even in the US, clearly is nowhere near big enough. So they needed either India or Africa to create that partnership. The reason why Africa became the biggest concentrated market for China is because we share the same cultures. When you look at history, you look at the way we live, the way we raise our children, a lot of it is very, very similar. So they can really relate to the culture in Africa. And then 35 years ago, China was in the same exact position that Africa was today. Yeah, which is really deep. But they created a system that allowed them to figure out a way to move it in. So now China has all these factories, all this product. They can't keep all of that shit stored up in what's the names, but they also need to expand that audience too, as far as who all this product is going to. So Africa can utilize majority, at least 90% of the stuff that's being created in China today because of that culture, collaboration, you know? So what China's doing, they're creating, instead of buying, they're just bartering. They're saying, okay, listen, to keep our factories running, to keep this and that going, we need resources from Africa. We can't live without the resources. But in return, we want to be able to build infrastructure, you know, schools, roundabouts, bridges, and things of this nature. So that serves two purposes for Africa and for China, mainly. One, it gives China the distribution routes that they need to be able to create, you know, opportunity to sell more goods, distribute more goods, ship out more goods to a brand new audience. And two, it gives Africans the infrastructure that they need to be able to just set up a basic economy to gain enough revenue to even be able to afford that stuff. So it's a win-win situation when you look at it.
Right. And people are like, this is bullshit. Akon is just being used and he's just China's trying to take over and giving him loans and whatever else. He said, not so. And he knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Right. Now, it is true. China is using Akon. And rightfully so. The right person to get something that needed to be done.
Right.
China, when I was in China, I think I mentioned this before, they were having commercials and little small blurbs on television that was showing the wonderful parts of China, how wonderful these people were, how pleasing, and because
wonderful parts of Africa.
Yeah. And how pleasing the African people were.
Yes.
It didn't show any of the negativity. And when you ever saw anything on Africa, it was always negative. It was always they're savages, they're beasts, the flies flying around kids, there's no food. They always show Rwanda, they always showed all of that, but they don't show that somebody's coming in and saying, okay, China, we're going to put a factory here and we're going to put it, and now Chinese factories are different. They are definitely like, you know, they want you to be a machine. And they were trying that in China too. So they even be in trial for that, beating and treating people not properly. But on the overall view, China went in, invested money, invested trade. Yes, you're making their product, but you're also giving them a trade, taking them out of, I would say, the age when everybody can just come in and give them vaccines and test on them to see what works.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to listen to Akon as opposed to somebody in the comments who, you know, probably doesn't even have a high school education and has never been to China or Africa for that matter. I've been to Africa.
And they think Africa is a country.
Yeah.
That's the other part.
Yeah, I mean, Jamel Hill even said that on accident during our last interview.
Yeah.
She said the country of Africa. I'm like, the continent. She's like, oh yeah, the continent. Like she's very intelligent.
Right.
Like, you know, she's brilliant at what she does. She went to college, everything else like that. But there's this natural thing of calling Africa a country.
Yeah.
And seriously, how many Americans can name 10 African countries?
I can.
You can, but not that many people can. I can also, but not that many people can because people just say Africa.
Right. And I practiced too because somebody hit me with that and they were like, what part of Africa do you think your people are from? And I was like, they were like, well, you're tall. They started doing all that stuff. And I was like, probably West Africa, somewhere close to, you know, where the Maasai is. I started picking spots that I had seen in movies. And you never know. You never know. You just know that I'm African. If somebody asks me, I'm an African living in America.
Recently, it was announced that Donald Trump only paid $750 in federal taxes. while he was president. And in the 15 years previous to that, he had basically not paid any taxes.
It's not that he didn't pay any taxes.
Paid federal taxes.
He paid 900 something in taxes, but then had a loan for 72 and that in between.
Yeah.
And he spent $90,000 on his hair.
Right.
You know, every black girl I know understands. The brother was like, yo, get my whip up here done properly. Because it's part of his image. This is the deal, Vlad. Every time people talk about what they do in charity and what they do being a philanthropist, we need to understand they're not writing a check from their money. They're writing you a check from their taxable income.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, these people who you feel are just so giving to charity, they're only giving you 35% of what the taxes they have to pay, period. So if they make a lot of money and they would have a lot of tax, 35% of that tax can go to charitable needs. So understand when somebody comes in and go, oh, they wrote a $100,000 check, then they are trying to find places to put their tax money. And that's why you give them a tax certificate. That's what a write-off is.
Right. And people don't really understand write-offs either. People think it's just free money.
No.
You know,
right.
It's just, you could lower your taxes, but you still would be better off not giving that money. You know what I mean? You would keep more by not doing charity.
Right.
Right. And people don't understand that part. And look, this is probably why Trump was the first president in modern history not to show his tax returns. Everyone else has. And you know Trump.
Mm-hmm.
You spent some time with him.
Yep.
You actually somewhat defended him.
I didn't defend him. I just pay attention to a lot of the rhetoric from liberals.
So you're a big prediction guy.
Yeah.
You've done pretty well with the basketball predictions, I have to say. If you were to predict the 2020 election, Trump versus Biden.
Donald Trump.
You're saying Trump's going to win?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. And let me explain. For all those people, I'm a black man in America. That means I don't care who becomes president. I don't. I've been saying, and I said it on here, and people literally in the comments, I only read them after we did that interview. But Donald Trump has done a lot trying to get the black vote now. He has literally made Juneteenth a federal holiday. Has donated put up $600 billion dedicated to black communities for business. And they said, well, he's just trying to get votes from black people. Well, that's how you do it. Right. If you give us something, that's how you do it. You'll get my vote if you take care of black folk. I'm not saying who's getting my vote, but I'm only telling you because it seems like the Democrats are trying really hard to bash Donald Trump as opposed to tell me what they're going to do about the issues. And if you keep talking to me about Donald Trump and not about what you're going to do different and why it's going to be different, and I don't really believe it. I think it's going to be the same rhetoric as it constantly goes on. Ice Cube came on and saying, first we have to ask what they do for us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason I said Donald Trump is going to be the president of the United States in 2020 is because of big business. Big business would rather have Trump in there than have Biden. And to the point of they make so much money in tax cuts, corporate tax cuts, then why would you ever want to put somebody else in when he betters your business? And people say, well, he did this and he did this and he did this. Well, the United States is a corporation, and corporations rule this country. How the money is separated then. And when they talk about the change of power, if there's a change of power, what happens to our economy? Because if they come in and take down everything that he's put up, we're going to go back into a depression. And in May, we were in a depression. March, April, and May, We were in the Great Depression. So you have to pay attention to what's happening. You can't look at you. You can't look at, well, I feel this about the president. They hated George W. Bush too. They hated Bush.
Yeah.
And they just hated him. And then I saw him holding hands with Oprah, saying, Kanye really hurt you, huh? We'll be right back after this. I could not believe I saw George W. Bush sitting with Oprah holding hands. It's the same guy handing Michelle Obama candy. Like just a great guy now. But for 8 years, oh, he was the devil.
He was the devil. Right, and now he actually looks good compared to Trump. He actually bashes Trump.
Yeah, because he can. Because he has a dog in the fight.
Right, because Trump unveiled a platinum plan for Black Americans.
Right.
Which I guess...
but no other president has.
Yeah.
No other president has put forth a plan. And when they said, well, somebody said to me, Lincoln freed the slaves. Yeah, but his successor wanted to put him back in jail. Wanted and just threw everything away that Lincoln had put up. This, right, at least he has a plan that Black people can say, at least he lied to us with this plan. No one else has a plan. I remember when I was watching Charlemagne, and Biden said, if you're not Democrat, you're not Black. I couldn't believe.
If you're not voting for the Democrats.
You're not Black.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that thought, just that snub mentality that we got to join up because everybody else is joining up. I think we should start our own party in the first place.
Well, yeah, this platinum plan is a $500 billion...
Say it again, $500 billion platinum plan by a guy that everyone says is a racist, that everyone hates. And I sit around and I go...
He's part of the plan is to make the Ku Klux Klan and Antifa terrorist organizations.
First president to do that.
First president to do that. Because only 8% of Black people voted for Trump in 2016.
And that should tell Black people something in the first place. That right there should be the end of the answer. Only 8% of us voted for Trump and he became president. So what say-so do we have? None.
Right, because I believe that for the first time ever in this election, Latinos will make the biggest minority group over Black Americans.
And they vote.
Because
they're not restricted from voting. They didn't run into all the hurdles we had to jump into. Plus, in 7 years, the Latinos are going to be the majority of people in America. They're going to be the first to overthrow the white race.
I can see that, and that's perfectly fine. And let me tell you, I'm voting for Biden.
As long as you got Cruz.
I'm voting for Biden. I posted up my California registration.
Mm-hmm.
I'm registered to vote. If you do not like Trump, or if you do like Trump, you are not going to make any sort of difference by not voting.
Okay.
By not voting for Trump will not get Trump out. The only way you can make any sort of change is to vote. Ancestors of all people have died for their right to vote, but especially Black people.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the level of voter suppression that have happened in the history of America is repulsive. And to turn around and say, well, it don't matter. Well, Trump lost the popular vote and, the Electoral College got him anyway, so it doesn't really matter what I do. That's bullshit.
I don't think it is.
I think it is.
Let me tell you why. Our ancestors did die for the right to vote. That means we have an option. What we should do is control our right to vote. Malcolm X said in 1963, the ballot or the bullet. And he was talking about why it was so important before this, how important it was to make a change in the ballot because it was never there before. There were no black movement. And if we would have had a movement that gotten together and we would have had one thought about our decision in politics, we would have, and think about it, we would have elected more and more Black people in our communities, which we wind up doing. Mm-hmm. I tell my daughter, it's the locals that are very important, not just the executive order. It's executive officers. it's important to all the other officers if we want to make a total change, and if you want to make a change in those policies. President Trump likes he likes the spotlight, so he likes sitting there signing the executive order or passing a bill that he has the power to do and holding the pen up. But everybody else, the Congress that made those bills, that made those laws. My daughter and I got mad at me. I didn't want to wear a mask. I wound up wearing a mask now, but I didn't like the feeling that I had to wear a mask to make you feel better. Not that you weren't going to get sick, just to make you feel better. I didn't like that feeling. I didn't feel I had to wear a mask, be something different. But I got her understanding, and I said to her, I'm not wearing this mask because it's not a law. She goes, it's a mandate. I go, it's not a law. I didn't vote for it. It's a mandate put on by the governor that you chose to be in. That's your boy. I chose him as governor because I was in the weed business, in the wine business. So that was my, we went back and forth with that. And she kept saying, oh, you're going to vote for Trump. Well, I can't vote for Trump because I'm not a registered Republican, which is another unbelievable thing no one is talking about. In order to vote Republican,
you couldn't vote for Trump. Are you talking about in 2020?
Yeah, 2016 or 20. You have to be registered Republican
for the primaries
to vote for president.
Well, no.
Yeah, you can't just go in and say you have to pick what party you're a part of.
I registered to vote in 2020. So you're saying, I don't remember if I chose Democrat or Republican. Was that even an option?
Yeah, I remember when they told me that in order to vote, you have to, and I didn't, I said, why? I got to tell you what side I'm on? Why can't I just pick a side? They go, no, we have to know party. Yeah, check it out. It was a trip. So I wind up voting for Hillary because I wasn't a registered Republican, and I didn't want to vote for Hillary.
All right, here we go. I looked it up on USA.gov. Your state may give you the opportunity to declare your political party affiliation on your voter registration card. You do not have to vote for the party you're registered with in federal, state, or local general election. But in presidential primary or caucus, depending on your state's rules, you may have to vote for the political party you're registered with. So what I said was right. For the primaries, yes. Right. They don't want a bunch of Democrats voting in Republican primaries and so forth. But when it comes to the president, you can do whatever the hell you want. You can vote for whoever you want. So if you want to register
I think I'm a
Democrat
vote for Biden.
And vote for Trump,
I think I'm going to vote for Biden. I think I'm going to vote for Trump. The deal is I'm not telling anybody. I'm going back to being America. I have American.
Yeah.
I have a choice. And when I look back at it, my friend Jennifer Johnson, I'm calling you out, JJ dancer, banging body. She moved to Mexico with her husband, and her friends are moving down, and was so. If he gets reelected, we staying out of the country, and I didn't say anything, and I go, y'all hated Bush too. You didn't leave then, and I don't understand what makes y'all think you can we're gonna leave now like it's gonna change anything. They didn't leave. When you should have left, or when you should have been upset, is when Reagan was in power.
Yeah,
that was the destruction. When Reagan was in power to the point where Republicans didn't like him. But we can't do this, Vlad, because people don't do their history checks. They don't read. They only know what they're told by 3 liberal stations and 1 Republican station. I just sat there, man. I was watching, I'm getting my hair cut by my boy Enzo. New Life Barbershop, that's where we watch your show. And we're sitting in there, and I'm watching a commentary of Anderson Cooper on CNN. He wasn't doing news. He was doing his opinion of what was happening. It wasn't news, it was a commentary. And they just attacked so many things. And then to find an article that that the president of CNN, my buddy, Zucker, was like realizing that, hey, this guy is more entertainment than the other. And this is great for television. And he should do it this way. It just lets you see that all of the liberals may seem like they don't want Trump, but he's on more than anybody else. He gets way more camera time than anybody else. If they didn't want him, they wouldn't put him on. They would just only focus on what they wanted.
Biden, yeah.
But they can't do that because he's the entertainment.
Yeah, Tupac realized that early on. He said, as long as people keep talking about you, positive or negative, you'll continue to grow in stature.
Yeah.
John Salley, truly an honor.
You my
Truly
man,
an
50
honor.
grand.
That's right. You know, like
Fuck what you heard.
Fuck what you heard. You know, Chris Rock on the Breakfast Club said that this pandemic is could be compared to the Three Little Pigs. You're gonna see who has been living in straw houses, who's been living in stick houses, who's been living in brick houses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have 12 years of growing this company and a catalog, and 365 days of work.
Yeah.
In all those 12 years, we will continue to stay where we are.
I should have been on from day one when you didn't have a beard. And you was wearing Gucci.
I was wearing Gucci. But now you're back. My man, listen, words cannot express you know, the feeling I have of you coming here right now. I truly appreciate it. And man, we'll continue to grow. All the best of luck. Whatever you need, you always got it.
I got you.
My man.
Let's go hit that weed spot.